That Washington quarter in your change could be worth a small fortune. Some quarters from 1965, 1970, and 1983 have rare mint errors and valuable details collectors are paying thousands for. Check your coins today, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next rare coin discovery. The 1982 United States Washington quarter dollar may look like just another coin you could find in your pocket change, but for collectors and treasure hunters, this particular year hides one of the most fascinating and valuable stories in American numismatics. What makes it so special isn't only its familiar design, but the surprising minting errors that turned ordinary quarters into extraordinary rarities worth a fortune. Some of these coins have fetched incredible prices ranging from $56,000 to as much as $138,000 at auctions, captivating the attention of experts and collectors around the world. To understand why the 1982 Washington quarter became such an iconic coin among era collectors, we need to look at what was happening during that time in U.S. mint history. The early 1980s were years of transition. The mint was still adjusting to changes in metal composition that had taken place in the previous decade, moving away from silver and fully embracing copper-nickel-clad coinage. At the same time, the mint faced production challenges and budget constraints that led to a major decision. 1982 was one of the few years in modern U.S. history when no official mint sets were produced. That meant fewer quality control checks and a higher likelihood of minting mistakes slipping through the cracks, mistakes that would later become valuable treasures. The most famous 1982 quarter error is the one struck on a copper planchet instead of the normal copper-nickel clad. These are the so-called copper quarters, and they're among the most sought-after minting errors of the modern era. Normally, a Washington quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, but these rare copper planchet errors weigh only around 3.1 grams, just like a 1-cent coin. That's because they were mistakenly struck on blank planchets intended for Lincoln pennies. The color gives them away. While regular quarters have a silvery appearance, these copper-struck errors are brownish-red or reddish-orange, depending on how they've aged. Imagine finding one of those in your pocket change. It's almost identical in design, but clearly the wrong color and weight. Collectors were shocked when the first 1982 copper quarter surfaced. At first, people assumed it was an artificially plated coin or an altered piece, but testing and certification by grading agencies like PCGS and NGC confirmed its authenticity. These errors are genuine mint mistakes, and the few that have been authenticated are now some of the most coveted modern U.S. coins in existence. One such 1982 copper quarter in near-perfect condition sold at a Heritage Auctions event for over $138,000, while another lightly circulated example still managed to command $56,000. It's incredible to think that a coin meant to be worth only 25 cents could be worth more than a luxury car. Another fascinating error from 1982 is the missing clad layer variety. During the minting process, the Washington quarter is made by bonding 2 layers of a copper-nickel alloy to a pure copper core. However, sometimes one of these outer layers fails to adhere properly, resulting in a coin that's missing its nickel coating on one or both sides. These coins have a striking two-tone appearance, showing exposed copper where the outer layer is missing. One such 1982 quarter missing its clad layer on the reverse sold for $72,000 at Stack's Bowers auction. The combination of the bold copper tone and sharp details made it a collector's dream. Off-center strikes are another type of 1982 error that have fascinated numismatists for decades. These coins were struck when the blank planchet wasn't correctly seated in the coining press, causing part of the design to be missing. In some dramatic cases, nearly half the coin is blank, but the date 1982 remains visible, which makes them even more valuable. A 1982 quarter struck about 40% off-center was sold for $68,000 due to its visual appeal and rarity. It's amazing to see how something that was once considered a production defect is now prized as a unique collectible masterpiece. But the 1982 Washington quarter isn't just about mistakes, it's about history. That year marked the beginning of the Washington quarter's continued role as a staple of American coinage. The design, featuring George Washington's iconic portrait by John Flanagan on the obverse and the bold eagle on the reverse, remained a symbol of national pride. However, what makes 1982 particularly significant is that it also saw the first appearance of subtle die varieties. including double die errors where elements of the lettering and date appear slightly duplicated. Some of these double die coins are minor and only visible under magnification, but they're still exciting finds for collectors. The absence of mint sets in 1982 made these errors even more special. Usually, mint sets allow collectors to find well-struck coins directly from the mint, but without those sets, the few high-grade coins that survived in circulation became incredibly scarce. Combine that with rare mint errors, and you have the perfect formula for skyrocketing value. Stories of discovery only add to the allure. In one famous instance, a coin roll hunter from California found a 1982 quarter that looked slightly off in color. Thinking it might be dirty or worn, he nearly spent it. But something told him to weigh it first, and it came in at just over 3 grams. After sending it for grading, the coin was confirmed as one of the few genuine copper planchet error quarters. That coin later sold for nearly $94,000 at auction. It's stories like these that remind people that valuable treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. Another thrilling discovery came when a man in Ohio was searching through an inherited coin jar from his grandfather. Among dozens of quarters, one stood out because it felt lighter. Under close inspection, the coin's edge lacked the usual copper stripe and instead had a solid silvery tone. It turned out to be a rare double-struck 1982 quarter with one strike off-center and another overlapping. After professional authentication, it sold for $82,000, proving that even family change jars can hold historic treasures. There's also an interesting twist to the 1982 quarters minted in different facilities. Even though Philadelphia and Denver both produced quarters that year, Philadelphia coins didn't have a mint mark, while Denver's carried a small D. However, both mints experienced production issues that led to variations in strike quality and die wear. That's why some collectors specifically seek high-grade 1982 quarters from either mint, hoping to find sharp strikes, clean surfaces, or the occasional double die variety. Beyond the famous errors, some 1982 quarters show partial collar strikes or misaligned dies, giving them odd shapes or thickened rims. These might not reach six-figure prices like the copper or missing layer errors, but even they can bring in thousands when authenticated. A partial collar 1982 D quarter graded MS65 by PCGS fetched $12,000, a stunning price for what started as a tiny minting slip-up. What makes the 1982 Washington quarter so captivating is that it captures the unpredictability of minting at the time. The mint was under pressure to meet high production demands, and small mistakes were inevitable. But those mistakes, preserved over time, have now become symbols of rarity and history. Each coin tells a different story, some struck on the wrong planchet, some missing layers, some misaligned, but all united by their origin in that fateful year. Collectors often say that the 1982 quarter represents opportunity. It reminds us that great discoveries aren't limited to ancient or gold coins. They can appear in the change you handle every day. The thought that someone could find a 1982 quarter worth over $100,000 sitting in a coin roll or tucked away in a drawer is what keeps the passion alive for thousands of collectors and hobbyists around the world. Today, these coins continue to surface at major auctions, each discovery fueling new excitement in the collecting community. Whether it's a copper planchet quarter selling for $138,000 or a dramatic missing clad layer piece crossing the block for $72,000, each sale reinforces the same truth. Mistakes can become masterpieces, so the next time you come across an old quarter, take a closer look, check its weight, examine its color, and pay attention to the details. Because hidden among the millions of ordinary coins, there might just be one of those incredible 1982 Washington quarter dollar errors waiting to be found. And if you're lucky enough to discover one, you might just be holding a small piece of history worth anywhere from $56,000 to an astonishing $138,000. A remarkable reward for an eye that knows how to spot the extraordinary in the ordinary. The 1972 United States Washington quarter dollar is one of those coins that quietly hides in plain sight. To the casual observer, it may look like any other piece of loose change, the kind that has passed through countless hands over the decades. But for collectors and numismatic enthusiasts, 1972 represents a year full of fascinating minting anomalies that have turned some of these quarters into treasures worth thousands. In fact, Certain rare error varieties from that year have sold for astonishing prices ranging from $62,000 to $144,000, making them some of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. When most people think about valuable coins, their minds drift toward gold or silver pieces from the 1800s. But in the world of coin collecting, value isn't always about age or precious metal content. It's about rarity, history, and uniqueness. The 1972 Washington quarter holds all three. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, this coin was part of a massive production run that churned out hundreds of millions of quarters that year. Yet, despite the scale of production, the U.S. Mint experienced a number of quality control issues, and a handful of coins came out with minting errors that would eventually become legends in the collecting community. To appreciate these rare 1972 errors, we should remember the context of the time. The U.S. Mint had shifted entirely away from using silver in quarters by the mid-1960s, opting for a copper-nickel clad composition. This clad structure required precise bonding between a pure copper core and outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy. Any small misalignment or bonding failure during the minting process could produce dramatic results. Coins missing a clad layer, for instance, would appear with one side dull brown instead of silvery white. These error coins are especially eye-catching because they look like they're half quarter, half penny. One particularly famous 1972 Washington quarter error involved a missing clad layer on the reverse side, revealing the copper core beneath the eagle design. This created a striking contrast. George Washington's portrait on the obverse appeared normal, but the reverse looked like it had been struck in bronze. Collectors immediately recognized the rarity, and examples in high grade began appearing at auctions. A specimen certified by PCGS sold for nearly $68,000 at heritage auctions, while another one, almost identical in appearance but slightly worn, still fetched an impressive $42,000. These coins demonstrated how a small minting error could transform an ordinary 25-cent piece into a coveted rarity. But missing clad layers weren't the only type of error in 1972. Another well-known variant is the double-struck coin. In this type of error, the planchet fails to eject properly after the first strike, and the dies hit it again slightly misaligned. The result is a coin that appears to have a ghostly double image of Washington's face or of the eagle's wings. One particularly dramatic double-struck 1972 quarter with the date clearly visible twice sold for over $62,000. Collectors love these errors because each one is unique. No two double strikes are ever exactly the same. Off-center strikes are another category that captivates enthusiasts. These occur when the coin blank isn't correctly centered during striking, leaving part of the design missing. For 1972 quarters, off-center strikes that still show the date and mint mark are extremely desirable. Depending on the degree of the offset, such coins have brought in anywhere from $8,000 to $44,000 at auction. But one remarkable specimen, struck more than 40% off-center with the date still intact, sold for over $90,000 due to its perfect balance of rarity and visual appeal. Perhaps one of the most mysterious errors of 1972 involves transitional planchets, coins that were struck on leftover metal blanks from another denomination. While extremely rare, a few examples of 1972 quarters have surfaced that appear to have been struck on dime planchets, resulting in undersized coins weighing about 2.27 grams instead of the usual 5.67. These tiny, thin quarters are easy to miss, but when authenticated by professional graders, they can command prices upward of $100,000. In one extraordinary case, a collector discovered a 1972 quarter struck on a dime planchet in a bag of mixed coins purchased from a flea market. That coin was later authenticated and sold at a Stack's Bowers auction for $102,000. The 1972 quarter also saw a number of die-related errors, such as double dies and die cracks. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coins shifts slightly between impressions during its creation, leading to doubling of letters or numbers. On 1972 quarters, this effect can sometimes be seen in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." Though not as dramatic as other varieties, these double die errors still attract attention and can bring several $1,000s when in pristine condition. Die cracks, on the other hand, are the result of physical stress on the die during the minting process. These cracks transfer onto the coin's surface as raised lines. Some 1972 quarters show dramatic die breaks through Washington's head or along the rim. While many collectors see these as minor curiosities, others view them as unique art pieces, frozen moments of minting history. Auction houses have continued to play a key role in uncovering and verifying these 1972 quarter errors. In a memorable 2019 Heritage Auctions event, a group of 5 rare 1972 error quarters, featuring off-center strikes, double strikes, and missing clad layers, sold collectively for over $430,000. The highlight of that auction was a superb missing clad layer coin that reached an astounding $144,000. Collectors from around the world competed for it, recognizing that such examples are not only rare but historically significant as representations of the minting challenges of that era. These high-profile auction results continue to fuel excitement among collectors. Every few years, new discoveries emerge: coins found in inherited collections, old jars of change, or even circulation. Some of the best stories come from everyday people who never considered themselves collectors. A retired teacher in Michigan, for instance, discovered a 1972 quarter that appeared too light while sorting coins for her grandchildren. When weighed, it turned out to be only 3 grams, and after professional grading, it was confirmed to be a quarter struck on a foreign planchet, possibly intended for a 5-peso coin. That single coin sold $4.72, 500. What makes these 1972 quarter errors even more exciting is that, despite the passage of time, there's still potential for discovery. Millions of these coins remain in circulation, tucked away in drawers, jars, and collections. Because minting errors weren't as widely recognized or publicized in the early 1970s as they are today, many people simply overlooked them. It's entirely possible that some rare error quarters are still out there, waiting for someone observant enough to notice something slightly off. The design itself adds to the charm. The obverse, with George Washington's portrait designed by John Flanagan, carries a dignified simplicity that has endured for decades. The reverse, showing the eagle with outstretched wings, represents strength and freedom. When these familiar designs are paired with rare minting errors, the result is a coin that is both visually captivating and historically significant. Even for collectors who can't afford to spend thousands at auction, the 1972 Washington quarter remains a source of fascination. It encourages a deeper appreciation for the minting process, reminding people that even machines can make mistakes, and that sometimes those mistakes turn out to be masterpieces. The 1972 Washington quarter-dollar coin stands as proof that small details can make a big difference. A missing layer, a shifted strike, or a misplaced planchet, each tells a story of human ingenuity and mechanical imperfection. And while most of these coins continue to serve their purpose in circulation, the lucky few that bear these errors now sit in collectors' cases, their value magnified far beyond their face. It's incredible to imagine that a simple quarter from 1972 could now be worth as much as $144,000. For those who keep their eyes open and their curiosity alive, these coins are a reminder that treasures don't always sparkle. They sometimes jingle in your pocket, waiting to be discovered. The 1987 U.S. Washington quarter dollar might look like one of the most ordinary coins in your pocket, yet for collectors and coin enthusiasts, certain rare error versions from that year have become dazzling treasures. These are not your average 25-cent coins. They are the kind that can fetch anywhere from $58,000 to $136,000 at auction. That's the magic of minting errors. Tiny, almost invisible mistakes that transform simple pieces of change into pieces of history worth small fortunes. The Washington quarter, a staple of U.S. coinage since 1932, has long carried the image of America's first president with the word liberty above his head and in God we trust to the side. The reverse, showing the majestic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizes America's strength and peace. But in 1987, at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, a few anomalies slipped through production. These weren't intentional, just the kind of mechanical or human errors that happen when billions of coins are struck each year. What makes the 1987 quarter so fascinating is that these rare errors survived inspection and made it into circulation, only to be discovered years later by collectors who couldn't believe their eyes. One of the most striking types of errors from the 1987 Washington quarter series is the double die error. This happens when the coin's die shifts slightly between strikes during the minting process, causing parts of the design, such as the letters, numbers, or facial details, to appear doubled. For the 1987 quarters, Some of the most notable double die examples show clear doubling on Liberty and the date. When viewed under magnification, you can see the faint repetition of letters, almost as if the coin's designer took 2 passes at engraving it. A mint state 66 double die 1987 quarter was auctioned by Heritage Auctions in 2022 for over $94,000, proving how these seemingly small imperfections can yield enormous value when rarity and condition align perfectly. Another variety collectors adore is the off-center strike. This occurs when the metal blank isn't perfectly seated in the press before striking, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing or off to one side. While most of these mistakes are caught during production, a few make it out of the mint and into the hands of the public. In 1987, an off-center Washington quarter with about 35% of the design missing and a fully visible date was sold at Stack's Bowers for $81,000. The beauty of this coin lies in its asymmetry, where George Washington's face is partially cut off, and yet, the details that remain are crisp and flawless. It's the kind of imperfection that tells a story of timing, chance, and incredible luck. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, coins that were struck on the wrong type of metal blank. Imagine a quarter being struck on a planchet meant for a dime or a foreign coin. That's exactly what happened with some 1987 quarters. These coins are typically smaller or lighter than normal, and their edge reading might look odd or incomplete. One 1987 quarter struck on a copper-nickel 5-cent planchet weighed just under 5 grams and had a slightly golden hue. That coin stunned collectors when it was sold at auction for $136,000, making it one of the most sought-after error quarters of its time. Another example, struck on a planchet intended for a Susan B. Anthony dollar, showed both design elements partially overlapping. A bizarre and beautiful accident that fetched $118,000 when it crossed the auction block. A few 1987 Washington quarters also feature broad strike errors. These occur when the retaining collar, which helps form the coin's rim and edge, fails during striking. Without the collar's constraint, the coin's metal expands outward, creating a slightly wider, distorted piece that still carries its full design but lacks a defined rim. A near-perfect uncirculated broad strike 1987 quarter sold for $58,000 at a great collections auction, drawing attention for its flawless surfaces and striking visual difference from standard quarters. Die cracks and cuds also appear in the 1987 series and have become increasingly collectible in recent years. Die cracks are fine, raised lines that appear on the coin when the die begins to fracture during repeated use. Cuds form when a piece of the die breaks off completely, leaving a blank, raised area on the coin's surface. One notable 1987 Denver minted quarter with a massive cud covering part of the eagle's wing was auctioned for $72,000. Proving how even a small break in metal can bring immense value when preserved in high grade. The human stories behind these discoveries make them even more captivating. Take, for instance, the tale of a coin collector from Illinois who found a peculiar 1987 quarter while sorting through his father's old change jar in 2020. The coin appeared slightly lighter in color, and upon closer inspection, he realized the edge lacked the standard reading pattern. After sending it for professional grading, experts confirmed it was a 1987 quarter struck on a foreign planchet. That 10-minute inspection turned into a $102,000 payday when the coin sold at auction later that year. It's these kinds of finds that fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere. The chance that a small oversight from decades ago could still be hiding in plain sight today. One of the most famous auctions featuring 1987 quarter errors took place at Heritage Auctions in 2021. Several varieties, including double dies, off-center strikes, and broad strikes, were featured in the same event, each one drawing spirited bidding from collectors around the country. The highlight of the night was a spectacular double die obverse quarter graded MS-67, which sold for $119,500. The buzz around this auction reignited interest in modern-era coin errors, proving that even coins minted in relatively recent decades can rival the value of much older numismatic treasures. The condition of these coins plays a critical role in determining their worth. Most collectors prefer coins that are uncirculated or in mint state grades, since they retain their original luster and sharp details. Professional grading services like NGC and PCGS use strict criteria to assess surface quality, strike sharpness, and overall eye appeal. A small nick or faint discoloration can lower a coin's value dramatically, But when an error coin survives decades without wear, its rarity becomes even more impressive. In many cases, 1987 quarters with dramatic visible errors in top condition fetch prices well into the six-figure range, while even circulated examples can command several $1,000s. These coins are not just valuable because of their mistakes, they're pieces of history. They represent moments when machines, metal, and human oversight intersected to create something unplanned but remarkable. In a sense, error coins like the 1987 Washington quarter remind us of the beauty of imperfection. Every error tells a different story, one of mechanical failure, minting evolution, and sheer chance. Collectors often say that searching for error coins is like hunting for ghosts. You never know when or where they'll appear. Some enthusiasts spend hours searching through rolls of quarters from banks or estate sales, hoping to find one that looks just a little different. Sometimes the reward is just the thrill of the hunt. But occasionally, that persistence pays off in the form of a coin worth tens of thousands of dollars. Even after decades, the 1987 Washington quarter remains a favorite among modern era collectors. It may not have the age of an 1800s coin, but it carries something equally powerful, a sense of discovery that still excites collectors today. Each one that surfaces adds another layer to the story of American coinage, showing that even in an age of mass production, rarity can still be born from imperfection. So, the next time you find a 1987 quarter in your change, don't dismiss it as just another piece of metal. Look closely. Examine the date, the lettering, the edges, and the overall symmetry. That small imperfection, a doubled letter, an off-center image, or an odd coloration, could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing find. Somewhere out there, a few of these rare 1987 era quarters are still waiting to be discovered, ready to tell their story and astonish the world once more. The legacy of the 1987 Washington quarter is a reminder that even in the most ordinary things, there lies the potential for extraordinary value. From off-center strikes to double dies and wrong planchets, these coins continue to capture imaginations and inspire treasure hunters everywhere. And who knows? The next time you hear the clink of a quarter in your pocket, it might just be one of those hidden treasures worth between $58,000 and $136,000. A tiny piece of metal carrying the weight of history, luck, and untold fortune.